he's gonna be all upset because he keeps thinking
Yeah.
I'm blowing him off doing these things. He's not gonna believe me. You know, he's not gonna believe me now. Let me see here. It's all right. It says we're live. Where is it? We got something going on tonight. This is kind of weird. This is not normal.
You know what they say.
There it is.
Because
Okay.
I don't.
Edit privacy, make it public.
There we go.
All right. He said he's here. I'm going to try to send him the link real quick. I don't know if you'll lose me or not. Let's see. All right. All right. Let's see. No. No, it's not letting me.
Shoot. I was looking forward to talking to him.
I'm trying. He's not showing up though.
Huh.
I
Well,
don't know.
other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Nick, you're not showing up, buddy. I'm trying. I'm sending it to Messenger, where we've done everything, but you're not showing up in it. It's not, your name's not populating at all. We are live right now too. How you been, Nelson?
Well, it's been interesting past couple of years.
Yeah, no, he's saying, where's it go to? It goes to your Messenger right there in Facebook where we've been conversing, but you're not showing up. You're not showing up in Messenger, so you don't have the capabilities for StreamYard. Obviously, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on out there. I don't know if you don't have a good connection or what. No, we're going to have to try it another time. I'm going to have to talk to this old fellow all by myself now. Well, it's been what, about 2 years since I saw you in New Mexico?
Yeah. When was it? That was January of 2020, because
Yes.
that's when I was going to Tucson to record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss it out there so much.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed New Mexico and that part of the country. I lived in Albuquerque for a couple of years. I lived in El Paso before that for a couple of years. So.
Yeah, I remember. I love the culture. I love the culture. I love the food.
Yeah.
That place where me and you were, that was a cool little area. Nick, I can't answer this right now, Nick. He's gonna be so mad at me, but I can't get to you, buddy. I'm sorry. I can't do it. You know, it's not showing up. We're gonna have to figure it out and get John by yourself. You know. Yeah, that restaurant, that whole little square, that old town, that was just
that was La Mesilla.
yeah,
Mesilla.
I got lucky. I got out of there just before the whole COVID thing hit. Like I just beat it. And I really had a good time down there. I missed the Southwest and everything, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of your album, how's everything going with the guitar stuff?
Well, you know, modern times in the music world is very different because
Nick, I can't answer this, Nick, while we're on a live. I can't do that.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I wish he could get on. Well, anyway, the modern music scene is different. It used to be 45, 50 years ago, everything was you made your name and your money off of touring.
Right.
And that's where you mainly made the bulk of the recognition, money, and everything else. Now it's all about electronic formats.
Sure.
But the problem is you have to be one. Here's the issue: 60,000 new songs are released every single day worldwide. And
Are you serious?
yeah, so unless you're already an established, somebody that is followed by hundreds of thousands of people, you're not going to get noticed, and you're
Right.
make literally zero money, because those companies like Spotify and all those, they make all the money from
Wow.
advertisement. So yeah. So the only way I can make money is through sales of my CDs. That's it. So
Where could people find your CD, Nelson?
well, actually, I have I have a website, but I also have that is Nelson Hodges Guitarist, all one thing.
And we'll put it in here when we're done. We'll put the link and the website and everything.
Appreciate it.
I'm
Appreciate it.
very jealous. I wish I could play a guitar. I wish I would have started that when I was
Yeah,
young. That's an incredible thing to listen to. My
yeah,
son, who's 11, he started taking lessons when he was 9,
yeah.
and incredibly talented, just gifted to where his music instructor, he's a hell of a, I mean, he's really a
Good.
major guitar player. He was like, this kid could be professional by the time he's 16 years old. And
Nice.
he doesn't want to play the guitar. He switched to piano now. I'm like, play the piano, but can't you do
Yeah.
both? It's
Yeah, I actually started playing piano when I was 5. My whole family were classically trained musicians, and they were all older than me. So when I grew up, I just thought everybody played the piano. So I
wow.
just
Yeah.
started playing.
Yeah.
And uh, then my sister got a guitar, Mexican handmade guitar from a boyfriend of hers, and she didn't want to play it, so she just handed it to me. And when I was 12, I guess, and
Is
that's when
that when you started?
I started picking up. So we had, my parents had tons of different recordings from classical musicians, stuff like that. So Andres Segovia, who's probably the greatest classical guitarist of all time, uh, we had albums of his, so I started trying to play his stuff, which of course is extremely difficult.
Wow.
But so that's kind of where I started with that, and I just continued playing guitar, all types of guitar, and some keyboard as well. So on the album, um, I'm not a cover band, so I play my own music. I've got 60 to 80 original songs that I do.
Yeah, man, it's I'm not
And
just saying this, it's beautiful stuff. Like it's
and I
very
play all
nice.
the instruments on it too. So
No kidding.
yeah.
Who's your favorite guitarist of all time?
Oh well, besides on classical, Andres Segovia, obviously, but um, Al Di Meola is probably one of the greatest musicians. Just incredible mind, creating music as well as playing it, and his capabilities. So just unbelievable to watch him. So
Yeah, you do a lot of stuff. It's interesting. Nick, I don't know if you're there, buddy, but I just tried again and you're not showing up. So you don't have the capability to get on StreamYard for some reason. I don't know why, but I tried you again. Um, yeah, that's pretty. Hey, yeah, no kidding, Matt. Play the drums. Yeah, he's my daughter is big into music and the arts, and she's very talented. She just started playing the guitar, teaching herself through
yeah,
YouTube. I had an uncle, and him and all his old Italian buddies. He was an old Italian guy. He actually has a beautiful Gibson guitar
mm-hmm.
engraved on his tombstone.
Oh, no kidding. Huh.
Yeah, like he was big. He didn't know how to read music, and he taught himself how to
Yeah,
play, and
I
was
don't know how
phenomenal.
to read music either.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's incredible.
I have perfect pitch, so when I hear it, I play it.
Wow,
I know where all the notes are. They're all the same
that's
place.
yeah, man. I used to sit down in his basement, and him and his old buddies, they had a band, and they played every Friday night. And that dude could play a guitar and never had a lesson. Just taught himself,
Yeah,
and I just could never understand that.
yeah.
It was just
That's what I did. Yeah, my mother wanted me to take classical lessons on piano because she was a concert pianist. And when I was about, I don't know, 7 or 8, she took me to the best person in the city at the time, and it took the lady about 5 lessons to finally figure out that I wasn't reading the music. I would watch her play it, and then I would just play it.
That's wild.
And then she fired me. She said, "Don't ever come back."
That's wild. That's absolutely wacky, you know. So have you started building out on your property yet?
Well, I'm always building something, but no,
Yeah.
I haven't started the house yet. I've got it laid out. I'm still in some segments of design, and but yeah, I was really trying to focus on the center itself, and the institute, and trying to get it. So I've got.
That's right, because you're an architect too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually closed my company early last year, and fired my clients, American Airlines and Delta and those guys.
Yeah.
After 35, 40 years of
Wow.
Doing work for them all over the world. So, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, no, I enjoyed being at your place there. When I got home, that's when I started seriously looking for property out here.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I just enjoyed that so much. And
well,
you
I've
were
made
so
a lot
far.
of changes there too. So there's a lot of improvements. There's new buildings. And,
Really? No kidding. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Met a lot of good people.
yeah,
I love how remote you are. You're just out there, man. There's nothing, you know?
I've got 1,000 yards line of sight.
Yeah.
I can keep anybody at bay. Trust me.
That's pretty nice. So the one thing that I remember people commenting on, because you're very different in your way of I don't call it training dogs, it's more of a lifestyle and being with dogs on their level that you do. And they couldn't understand.
I still train dogs, but
sure, you know what I mean. But they couldn't understand how me and you can get along. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, actually, I love the way he trains dogs, and I love the final product, and I'm a big believer in so much of what you do. He's telling me now he thinks he fixed it. All right, Nick, I'm going to try one more time.
Yeah, try it again.
I'm going to try one more time here, buddy. All right. Let's see. All right. We're going to send one more time to Nick W. Pipes. Maybe because you got a stupid friggin' fake name, then that's why it's not showing up. Use a real name next time, bonehead. Nope, not there.
Jeez.
Not there, Nick. Not there, Nick W. Pipes. Not there, buddy. I just tried again, But yeah, I found it very interesting, and
there's a lot of people who expect dog training to just be training the dog.
Sure.
And that's about that much of the whole. And what I look at and what I teach at the Institute is everything about the dog, so that you understand it from literally where dogs came from, the real history of it, the structure of dogs, how they move, what their intent is, how they think, just everything about it. And it all goes back to survival. And so how do you survive best? And that's what creates the temperament and personalities of the dogs, is how they see survival. What has worked for them? What is their, what's their genetics? All of that. So it all factors in. And if you ignore any of that, you're really working from a deficit point. So.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Nelson, I have a dog here now that's in like really bad shape mentally and genetically, and I haven't gone into detail on some of the things I've seen with this dog. I mean, anything. I'll give you an example. Dog's doing really well now, right? So the owner left his bed, his cot with me. And yesterday, instead of just putting it in his pen with him, I put it in the yard. I wanted to see how he responded to his own bed.
Right.
Basically almost tried to run out of the yard, You know, I mean, this is his bed.
Yeah.
You know, anything new.
Right.
And the reason I'm showing so much with that dog, and let's be honest here. There's so many bad things going on in this industry with people that shouldn't be training dogs.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to use this dog just to show people the actual work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a whole different way, right? A whole different way. There
Yes.
hasn't been any food.
Right.
It's meaningless to this dog,
Exactly.
right? There's no compulsion going on. There's no force.
It's funny. Those are the dogs through my decades of career of actually working with private clients and dogs. Before I started the institute, uh, that was 80% of the dogs that I worked with.
Sure.
Um, Food didn't interest them because they either didn't trust you or they just wanted to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was a potential threat to them.
Right.
So you learn an awful lot about working, 12,000 dogs that way over time, about what a dog is and how to reach it. And I'm glad to see that you're doing that. A lot of the timelines that I learned was from understanding the different types of fear, misunderstandings, et cetera, that dogs have, and being able to frankly predict pretty well how long it's going to take to reach a dog. And one of the timelines that I learned, not only on that, but there's a number of things biologically that we as humans and as dogs, as animals, frankly, as mammals, uh, there's actually a biological aspect to a 72-hour period, a 3-day period.
Yes, absolutely.
It works because the brain, the neurotransmitters and hormones are controlled that way. And that's what I teach a lot of, is the neuroplasticity and understanding neurotransmitters, creating the right soup or mix, if you will, of chemicals in the brain to create the proper understanding of how to have that dog want to learn, want to feel good. You don't learn unless you feel good.
That's right.
And if you feel, fear, anger, distrust, uncertainty, all of those things, you really don't learn, because what you do is you go back into a survival mode, an instinctual mode. So you're not learning until afterwards. So it's better to try to put the dog into a comfortable situation, and that's familiarity. But you have to create new familiarity.
Go back 1 second, please. Sorry to interrupt. You just said something about the dog not learning till later when they have fear or they're uncomfortable. Touch on that a little bit. And I have a
Okay.
reason for that.
Well, the reason I say that, matter of fact, in classes, I ask people, so how many of you guys have ever been in a fight, a physical fight?
Mm-hmm.
And, most men and women, at some point in their lives. And I always ask them, did you learn anything while you were in the fight? And the answer is always no. It's just survival. You just go to what you already know instinctually to survive. It's afterwards that you go through all of the stages of mental uh, progress and regress, frankly, into trying to understand what happened, how you can avoid it, how did I survive? Did I get a rush out of it? Dopamine rush. Do I want that again? Do I not want that again? All of those things go through the mind. That's when you're learning, is after the fact.
Exactly. And in the dog world, people that have a little experience refer to it as soak time. They just don't understand exactly why soak time works. But when you said that, that's why I wanted you to go back, so people have a deeper understanding of it. And when you said the dog has to feel good to learn, that's it's one of the best statements you could ever say about these animals.
Well, there's about 200 different neurotransmitters and hormones in the body, most of them created in the brain for the brain's purpose. there are 8 major categories of neurotransmitters, and 4 of those are the survival mode, and the other 4 major categories are in the feel-good learning mode. And those are the ones that you want to create in the dog, even in small ways, so that the dog picks up what it is your intent is, rather than survive on what they've had before. When you're trying to teach a dog something, you're trying to show it something different, something new, A, B scenario. A, this is what's worked for you. Let's try B. Well, they're not going to try B if they don't feel good. They're going to rely on A. So the only way to get to B is for them to feel safe, and you get what you focus on. That's how all brains work. You get what you focus on. I want everybody to understand that, because if you focus on negative, you're going to get negative always. If you see the world as a negative place, that's the way you're going to see everything. And
there's going to be a lot of dog trainers that won't watch this live because they don't want me to see that they're watching. They'll watch it after. For you guys, I want you to write that statement down and get it tattooed on your ass, what he just said. Okay? You need that tattoo on your ass.
Yeah. If you, and this isn't about positive, negative. I don't, honestly, in the number of years I've been teaching since 1991, I have never used 4 quadrants as an explanation for anything, because it's the most simplistic. Humans want to simplify everything.
Yes.
Look, this is calculus to the nth degree. This is math theory.
I love that.
You're dealing with one brain from one species to another brain of another species, and the permutations of how many billions of combinations of things it could be. There's no way to explain it in 4 quadrants. So I don't talk about positive, negative, all that stuff. I've never mentioned it in any of my classes.
Either.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
And so it's trying to quantify something that is unquantifiable to make it easy to understand. I would rather go in depth on everything and truly understand what's going on inside and outside the brain. And now we can have a conversation because we're getting closer to understanding each other. And that's really what it's all about. That's what the relationship is about. Who's supposed to have the superior brain? Humans, right? So it's our obligation. And I use the word obligation a lot, which it isn't used anymore. Obligation means I owe, not because you paid me, but because that's my position to owe. It's upon me to owe you, meaning the dog or whatever, my best, and trying to reach you to help you. That's my obligation. And so by doing so, it's my obligation to learn as much as I possibly can about every aspect, from literally molecular level to the history of that particular breed, to history, everything I can about dogs, so that it is all within that understanding of what I'm actually working with. Because you're not working with a human, you're working with a different species. And some dogs are domesticated, most of them. Some of them are not domestic animals. Some of them are ancient breed, and that's what we call them. There's 13 ancient breeds. And if you don't understand the genetics and the difference of those, you're going to be working against nature, and you're going to bump up against things. Everybody, all the trainers I know initially hate to work with Huskies. Why? Because they're ancient breed. They're the oldest dog breed on earth. And they go, I don't need you to survive.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
30,000 years of genetics in the worst climate on earth. If I'm in their universe, they're in charge. I'm not.
Yeah, it's not there, but I checked. The mail's there, but your book's not there. I'm sorry. Well, you could check. Go ahead. It's dark out though. Yeah, I love what you just said, especially about the quadrants and stuff, Nelson, because I'm the same way. I've never talked about that. As a matter of fact, at the last seminar I just did in Utah, there was a lot of great people there, a lot of interesting dogs.
Yeah.
And I touched on the quadrants for a reason. And I gave some examples, and I'd ask people, what quadrant is that? And they would tell me it's positive punishment. I say, okay, now I give them a different example and I say, what's that? Well, it's negative reinforcement. I said, what's the difference? Why is this one punishment? And people can't answer. And I told them, I said, if you're focused on the quadrants, you're at least 50% missing everything else, you know, everything out there. You can't, once your mind gets tangled around that stuff, you're going to be screwed. And when you're working with people, when you're working with especially average dog owners, I've never done it in my life with them. I've never talked about it. I've never tried to, because it's meaningless to them. And it's more confusing than anything else, you know?
It is. It's a time waste for clients.
Yes, it is. I agree.
Just go on, move on, actually teach them something about their dog.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I catch a lot of shit over that from dog trainers because it is important to them. And I said, no, it's not, because I guarantee you my relationship with my clients is a little more solid than yours. I guarantee it.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that back in the old email list days before all the social media stuff, the thing I would hear the most about, you know, trainer complaints, and you still see it a lot on the trainer sites, is the quote unquote go home aspect.
Yeah.
Where, you know, well, my dog was perfect for me, but my client, you know, blah, 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 etc. Well, whose obligation was it to teach client?
Yes.
And I was always very confused because I never had go home problems because I spent the first 5 hours working with the humans. Educating them first.
100%. 100%.
Literally. And then work with the dogs. And then they understand from a different standpoint. And now they can ask the right questions instead of wasting time.
Yeah, I agree. And that's been something that I have pushed myself over several years to get better and better, because that's where the true everlasting results come from.
Yes, because you don't live with the dog, they do.
I did a math problem, and I'm not a math guy. I broke down the percentage of time that dog spends with you in its life and the percentage of time it spends with the owner. It was like 0.001% that you're with that dog. It's meaningless. You could be the best dog trainer on earth. No matter what you do is temporary unless we could spend time educating the owners in a realistic fashion. Right? And one of the examples I use is one of my favorite dogs that I see often is a chocolate lab. His name's Henry. Love the dog to death, right? Great dog, great family. I never take Henry down to the pond and throw bumpers and use that as part of his training, because when he goes home, he's never doing that again. And the second I set that dog up to expect that and love that and thrive with that, what happens when he goes home and he goes back to being a regular pet in a very busy professional household with two small children? And so everything I do training wise, I think about how does this dog live on a daily basis? That's what I'm going to focus on. And people overshadow, they're not looking at that. And that's why I videoed a consultation I had yesterday. I just evaluated a Rottweiler. They drove from Cincinnati, which is a hell of a drive. And I filmed it to see people, to let people see this is the real conversation here that we have. I'm not selling them nothing because I can't have their business. I don't have time to take them on as clients. And I let them know that before. So it's an honest evaluation of a dog that's been told to put down by two trainers, many residents, and the breeder, right? There's nothing wrong with that dog. He has attacked people. Yes, he has, because he's unfulfilled and not being utilized to do what even close to what he's capable and bred to do.
Right.
You know,
that's probably 20% of the dogs that I ever got.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with the dog. They were simply, you know, I mean, I would get dogs that I would have to bring in my house because they were up here and the people were here. Right. And it would take literally a year for that to happen. So instead, as I work with these people, I'm trying to bring the dog down here where we can close the gap. So I would have to bring them in. And many of them, I mean, you know, I had no idea how many people those dogs had already bitten.
Sure.
Other than there were lists of 6, 10, 12 people, that that the dog had bitten. And, most of the time, dog comes into the house, there's another, 10, 12 dogs here, and they're looking at, that dog looks at them, the dogs that are already here look to me. So that dog looks to me and goes, he must be in charge. And then you have to
That's right.
prove it by being calm, composed, and consistent.
Sure.
So composure, clarity, contrast, which is clarity, and consistency. Those four things right there are going to help you 80%.
Yeah.
And humans are an emotional animal. And the emotions that we have, yes, dogs have an emotion, but it doesn't go to the learned emotions level that humans have. And that's some of the things that I teach in my advanced courses, is what are the base emotions that dogs have versus all of these others that humans have. And so humans look at a dog a certain way and assign an emotion because of the way the dog looks, a human emotion to it, as if it were
Sure.
jealous or
Right.
whatever these other human generated things are, when in fact it's much simpler than that, and it is not what humans think it is. So that emotional aspect of humans is not understandable to a dog, and therefore they can't trust you. And so it's all about trust. That's the relationship. If you distrust somebody, you're not going to really have a deep and close relationship with them, period, regardless. And so that distrust is constantly upset by human emotion. And the way I describe it is, what's important to a dog is over here, and what's important to a human is over here, and it overlaps about 5%.
Sure.
And the human addresses that 5% that's important to them, that they understand, and thinks they're in charge, and the dog looks at them 95% of the time and says, you're an idiot, I'm taking over. So the
Right.
dog ignores the human most of the time. And so that's what I try to do, is I try to close that gap between the two species and understanding, and teach them what's going on really inside the dog's head. And so, I call leadership composure under fire. No matter what happens, I've got this.
That's right.
You can trust
Right.
me, buddy. I've got this. There's not going to be any retribution. I'm not going to fly off the handle. I'm not going to suddenly bust out in laughter or whatever else, because that makes no sense to them.
Sure.
And so a lot of the things, when I got dogs in to rehabilitate and train, and rehabilitation was the first and main part of it, because once you get their trust, they will do anything you ask of them. That's
Right.
the point. So, yeah, as far as my training method, a dog is going to do anything. A dog capable of sitting, staying, standing, coming, jumping over something, any of that stuff, they do naturally anyway. All we're doing is capturing it and saying yes. And that's where that you get what you focus on works.
Right.
So if I am aware of what that dog is giving me in that moment, and I go, yeah, good boy, that dog is going to feel good. It's going to trust me more, and it's going to want to give me more of that. That's
Right.
that's the key right there.
Right. And you use a stable pack of dogs with new dogs that come in, correct?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's so vital. It's
Yeah.
so vital, but
That's
it's
what I
in,
did. I built up. I averaged about 8 in my own personal pack, because I had to have enough. If I had 5, 7 other very unstable, dogs that wanted to kill me or kill other dogs or
sure.
whatever, or terrified of its own shadow, I had to have enough dogs that were stable, looked to me. And the thing is, it's not just about having the stable dog. A stable dog can eventually get overwhelmed too. So it's about teaching them. And it usually took I've taught search and rescue. I've taught all sorts of, different service dogs. One of my dogs right now in training for service dog. And the key is that it took about 2.5 to 3 years to teach each one of my dogs exactly what I wanted from them in every situation they would ever encounter.
Sure.
So it takes as much certified training to teach those dogs how to be part of that rehabilitative pack. Because if they break that trust with that dog, if they misbehave, if they're not understandable, or they try to be cocky, or any of those other things that cause problems, then you've just screwed the whole thing.
Absolutely, 100%. And then I tell people, they say, "Well, you got really great dogs." I say, "Yeah, but I train them for 2 years minimum, nonstop."
Yes. Yep.
I'm teaching them how to be a functional, self-sufficient part of our family for 2 years.
Yes.
Not 3 months, not a 3-week board and train, for 2 years minimal. That's minimal. That's with an easy, the Rottweilers and the Shepherds, 2 years to be self-sufficient. Some dogs a little more, but I see dog trainers that have dogs that aren't really self-sufficient and under control, and they're utilizing them with training, and they don't understand how much that's hurting them.
Yeah, because those dogs are sending signals all the time to the other dogs.
Constantly.
But dogs understand dogs more than they'll ever understand any human.
100%. 100%. Let me tell you something, Nelson. I still get fascinated when I watch, especially my own dogs with difficult dogs. It still to this day blows me away. And with this dog I have here, it's the first time I said in a while, I was like, I really wish Bruno was still around, my last Rottweiler, because he was always with me with dogs like this, right? I had a little incident the other night with the Corso. It was his first night here. So I'm still in the bite suit. He still can't be trusted.
Right.
And to get him out of the pen, I got to make a loop and just a regular leash and lasso him and get him out that way. If I could do that, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, when he was coming out, he blew by me. No. I didn't go. I was going to let him out. I had him in a closed area where he couldn't go into the big yard of the garage.
Right.
But what happened was the door that leads to the yard wasn't pushed closed and literally just cracked open. This dog realized it was cracked open and ran to it and pried it open with his face and got in my yard. Now, I have a fenced yard, but a 5-foot fence, dogs could jump over.
Yeah.
And he was looking. And I'm in the bite suit. And I'm dying, sweating, and I can't get him. He's not going to come to me. There's no way. So I get my wife, I call her, I make her go in the driveway so he won't jump that way, which she was not happy about. Not happy. She's, are you kidding? Right? And at one point, I got my golden doodle, Buddy, to come outside and play with him. Try to play with him, right?
Yeah.
What blew me away about Buddy, this really shocked me, because he's a dog that does like to play, and he likes to play rough, and he'll let dogs beat on him, and he's relentless. He won't give space. He wants to play.
Yeah.
When I watched him act completely different with this dog, but what blew me away is he went and laid by the door into the garage. Buddy did.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's never done this. He laid with his toy by the door. And I'm looking at him, I'm going, there's no way. There's no way. And so I backed off and went to the opposite end of the yard.
Yeah.
It took a while of chasing this dog around, and I did it on purpose because I wanted to get him tired. He doesn't have a ton of stamina. Right. And then I went to the far end, and he went over and hung out with Buddy. And then when he had enough, he walked in and went on his pen by himself. Man, I praised my dog. I said, Buddy, dude, that was impressive. He's never done that before, ever. You know what I mean?
So I've got a little story that Bosch is my youngest new German Shepherd, and he's actually a very exceptional dog. The litter that I work with, the people that had the litter, I worked very heavily with them for about 4.5 weeks.
I remember when you were
Yeah.
working with them.
And so Bosch was at the top. He was tied for number one. There were 4 dogs that were easily working or service dog level out of that litter, which was pretty amazing since it was an accidental litter.
Right. Yeah.
Um, anyway, they asked me to bring him home and develop him as a working dog or something like that. Because I said, because actually the dog I wanted was a female, but I decided at the time other things were going on, and I just said, I can't get one. So anyway, so they asked me to keep him for about 3 months and develop him. Well, so I took him to the center, and I had Toffee with me, and Toffee is she's now 3-year-old German Shepherd. Some people think she's a Malinois. Maybe she's a mix. I don't care. She's an incredible dog.
Right.
Very smart. And so I would ask Bosch, this little tiny fluff ball, to do something like go up on an incline, and he'd kind of, I don't know about this. And Toffee would see me. She'd come over. She'd look at him, look at me, walk up, and he'd start going after. She would do that. So basically, everything I asked of him, she would show him and do it to show him what my intent was. So basically, she trained Bosch initially.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It really is. It's absolutely amazing. And I tell people all the time, for years I only worked with really crummy dogs, not on purpose. I just happened to get one that was really tough, and I did a good job with it. And then the word spreads.
I understand.
And Bruno was always with me. My Rottweiler was always with me. And I would watch him in awe constantly. I mean, I would just watch him. And so it made my job easy. And I'm not just saying this. I truly don't believe my business would have never taken off if it wasn't because of him.
Yeah. I understand.
He made me look a lot better than I really was, but I learned so much from watching him with those dogs. I really learned a lot. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And when I saw Buddy do that yesterday, I couldn't believe it. It's so against his character, and my wife saw it and she was like, he was unbelievable. I was like, I know he was. It's like he knew what was going on here.
Oh yeah.
And he just looked at me excited when everything was done. Man, I loved on that dog. I said, buddy, you're a good boy, pal. I got my females in heat and I got 4 intact males here. And so everything's a little off,
Yes.
But no, they're really fine. It's the extra sniffing and taking a little extra time when I say, come on, guys, let's go. And then they'll stop eating for a couple of days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like just bad luck. And I know how I feel about the spay and neuter with the males. What's your take on that, Nelson? Where do you sit with that stuff?
Well, so, Bosch is not neutered, and he probably never will be.
Mm-hmm.
He will never be a behavior problem. He's super intelligent, et cetera, et cetera. Mia, my other German Shepherd that passed away a couple of years ago, she was never neutered. She lived to be 17 and a half.
Right.
Or spayed, I'm sorry. Yeah. Honestly, so I understand the whole rescue mentality and everything else. I understand that it's about trying to create a situation where there's not unwanted or unmerited litters, but that hasn't worked because it's all about demand. We've got 91 million dogs in the United States alone right now. We had 60 million dogs 30 years ago, so the demand has increased, and it just doesn't matter. Yeah, we have to put more dogs down if there were more dogs and there wasn't the demand, but the demand is what's creating the situation and people thinking that they can. As far as the physical and mental development of dogs, they need to have, frankly, the growth hormones and everything else in proper amounts up to the point where at least all of the bone growth plates, and then about 4 to 5 months after um, for full physical development, which means once the bones stop growing, they need that time to develop muscularly, the tendons, all of the connections, connecting points, development of the joints and finality of the final shape, et cetera, et cetera. So you're really looking at, for instance, a German Shepherd, a minimum of 2 years before you ever even consider a spay or neuter.
And that's early. That's actually probably
that's early.
Yeah, that's probably pushing it a little
So
bit.
you're looking at the final the femur and some of the pelvic areas. Typically, they develop and stop their growth at about 18 months, and so another 5 or 6 months at a minimum again before you ever consider it.
And I was
Big
talking
dogs,
to
3 years, little dogs 15 months, but I just why, unless
I have a vet that she's fantastic and she's like honest about everything. And I was talking to her about Mango and I said, I don't know. I don't neuter my males. I've had both. And I know I'll probably never neuter a male again. I've seen the difference, right?
Yeah.
Females, this is only my second female. And so I was talking to her about it, and she said, if you're going to do it, 4 years old, no earlier on the female. I was like, really? No kidding. She goes, yeah, it really takes that long for the females where everything's really intact. If you do it, she said, I'd wait till she's 4. I said, wow, that's even longer than I thought, you know? And I appreciated the honesty because, today vets are like, hey, 6 weeks old, let's do it. Let's do it,
Yeah, I looked at, so there's been a number of studies, and me being I guess what other people are calling a dog nerd, meaning I'm actually scientific about things.
Right.
I actually look and read all of this medical and scientific studies. And, with the experience that I've had, I put that together and say, most likely it's this. I don't look at one study or another. I don't look at a philosophy or thought and just go with that, whatever they say. So looking at those studies with early spay versus never, spay or neuter versus never, and the incidence of things like cancer versus other diseases, other maladies, we'll say, versus one versus the other, and the percentages are almost infinitesimally different as far as if you do or you don't, or you spay middle. So really, it's a personal preference. It has nothing to do with, you could get testicular cancer. Okay, well, that incident may be 9%, whereas if you did it early, they'd only have 5% incident. But so you're talking about a 3-4% difference in possibilities. What's the health life of that dog worth for that difference of percentage on down the line if you're making an unhealthy dog because of the lack of hormones developing within the body normally?
Sure.
So.
Sure. And I don't know if there's anything scientific behind this, but I do see certain breeds seem to suffer more with the early neutering.
Yes, they do.
And the Shepherds and the Rottweilers are two that come to mind. I've had both. I've had both neutered. I've had both intact, and I know the difference. And the Shepherds I deal with, it's probably 80% of the dogs I get are early neutered males.
Yeah.
And out of the 80% of those dogs that I get, probably 50% of them are just Shepherds, early neutered Shepherds. It's nonstop. And people talk about the physical issues that it creates, with the bones and but they don't think about what it does for the mental aspect. And I see a tremendous difference with those dogs. The lack of confidence there and the fear that I see in some of those dogs, I don't think it's coincidental. I just don't.
It
Mhm.
isn't, and I agree with you 100%. The second most, when I was, before the institute was created and I was working with individual clients, the second breed most that I got was German Shepherds.
Yeah.
So, I probably worked with, gosh, I don't know, 4,000 Huskies and about 2,000 German Shepherds, and then
Yeah.
everything else under the sun. So, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Do you
But
have a preference between male and female dogs?
uh, no, I really don't. It depends on the purpose and intent for me as well as the client, what they want. There are slight differences, obviously, in personality and temperament, different purposes. The reason I got a male um, for as a to train as a service dog was because they're bigger,
Right.
and for a mobility assistance dog, the bigger the better, obviously.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah, I've had mostly males. I had one female a few years back. I got her at 7 months. She died early, a Dutch Shepherd from. So Mango, my young Malinois, is a female. I got her for my, and the personality, probably the best dog I've ever owned.
Mm,
I would say definitely the most intelligent.
mm.
I came in last night and she's got a bite wedge. She's walking around the house with, very proud. I said to my wife, "Why did you give her that?" She said, "I didn't give her that." The kid said, "I didn't give her that." It was still in my suitcase from the Utah seminar. She went in my room, she found the suitcase,
Yeah,
got in the suitcase, and took it out. And it's not the first time she did that, you
yeah.
know?
She could smell it in the house. Trust me.
Yeah. Well,
Dog sense of
what
smell.
impressed me about the scent thing, Nelson? A couple of days ago, I was throwing a ball with a chucket for her,
Yeah.
and it must have hit a rock or something, and it bounced sharp to the left, and it went towards these tall pine trees that I have there, and it disappeared, and she couldn't find it. But I just watched her. I watched her hunt for it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was on the ground or in the tree. So eventually I went over there and I didn't see it anywhere on the ground. And she continued to go, go, go. And where I thought it wasn't. And as she's looking all around, I saw her just catch something in the air
Mm.
and followed her nose. And she found that ball stuck in the pine tree just off a scent from the ball. It blew my mind.
Yep.
Like I was
Yep.
so
Yep.
impressed by that. I was really,
Well, that
because
is their universe. Is the nose.
man,
That's what I teach in the institute. Is people need to understand and humans. One of the biggest problems that we have as a gap of understanding between us and dogs is they use their nose like we use our eyes,
right,
and they're up to a quarter of their brain is used for scent, for determination, detection, and value. Up to a quarter of their entire brain capacity, which is almost as much as we use in our entire life of actual size of brain.
right.
So, their olfactory bulb capability, it's literally millions and millions of times our capability. Now, German Shepherds have close to 300 million scent receptors in their nasal cavity to our 4 million.
Yeah,
So
it's
they're,
amazing.
and they've got stereo vision. We have one single cavity, they've got two separate ones, so they can discern the number of particles on this side versus this side and determine that it's coming from over there because there's three more particles in this side than here.
Mm,
There's this is this is part of the study that I've tried to teach my students, is understanding what their capabilities are. Again, I've had search and rescue dogs. I've taught them. We've done all sorts of things. Uh, I actually Bella's still alive. She's 17 years old. She's a Siberian Husky, but she is the best air scent dog I've ever seen.
17. And
Yeah,
you feed Merrick, right? If I remember correctly.
I feed a specific blend of things, but and the reason I developed this was because I knew my clients, especially years ago, they weren't going to source raw meat. They're not
Sure.
all
Yeah,
of
I
that.
remember. I remember you talking to you about this. I
Yeah.
was very interested in it.
So I determined I went through about 200 different, you know, combinations and
Yeah, yeah,
foods and stuff like that.
yeah.
And the best thing that I ever came up with, and still, is using Merrick grain free. And by the way, the DCM thing is really kind of BS,
Right.
because you shouldn't feed your dog the same thing its entire life. You
Yeah. People
change
do.
protein, you change supplements, you do all these things just like you would for yourself. So about 2/3 is kibble, 1/3 is real meat, canned or what, egg, raw egg, but warmed up, or braised chicken liver, whatever it is. About a third of what's in the bowl is real meat. And so they're getting two different proteins. And I change the proteins, that the wet food, I change it every day, every meal. The base kibble I change each week. So when you do a month of changing kibble, 4 different protein bases, by the time you get back to that next month to that first one, the bugs in the gut are still healthy and you don't get the diarrhea and the problems.
Oh,
So
that's interesting.
I get 4 different protein bases in the kibble, and they never have problems with it. And
Well, I
then
want you to know you're going to be bombarded about more information on
that's
this,
fine.
right?
I've got a whole protocol list of things and all the other supplements that, and the amount and when you should use it and everything else. I've had to write it up for classes and hundreds of. Look, I get about 200 phone calls per year from trainers all over the world with problems with their dogs, asking me privately, and I'm not going to mention their names because there's some pretty big names out
Sure.
there that have problems with their dogs, and they call me and I talk to them. And so I just developed a lot of this stuff over the years, just saying, here, do it this way, because everybody always asks. So, yeah, happy to share.
Well, here's the deal. We'll make a deal. You could share that feeding program because that's important because
Yeah.
today the dog food thing's worse than ever. I'm getting my ass kicked with this Origin, and I'm going through foods, and my dogs are getting sick. And when I started talking about that, a
Yeah.
bunch of people were chiming in like, "Whoa, my dog started getting sick on Origin now too." Well, they
So
left Canada and they moved right up the street from me.
the problem with Origin isn't it's a lot of it has a higher protein level. It's richer, and
Yeah,
that's what the dogs have a problem with. It's fantastic food if your dog can handle it, but I
sure.
found a lot of percentage of dogs, 20 to 30%, couldn't handle
Yeah,
that level. There are others that, Akana's got, a level of stuff that's on par with Merrick as far as what I've found out. Matter of fact, when I talked to Wendy Vollard years ago at IACP conference, I think that was 6 or 7 years ago, Wendy and I sat down and I introduced myself. She says, "Oh, I've heard of you. Let's go have a conversation." First time I'd ever met Wendy. She's just lovely, lovely, sweet lady. And really respect her book, her understanding, her knowledge of that. So we talked about foods and other stuff. And of course, she and her husband were incredible trainers. But of course, Volahard, the raw feeding and all of that stuff, the NDF, and that's best supplements that you can get. But if you don't do the raw feeding, then we talked about the kibbles, and she and I had independently determined the same. She says, "Well, these 5 are okay," and I said, "Those are the 5 that I also identified as being okay."
which
So,
5?
well, Merrick to me was number one
Hmm.
because I have never had a dog of any type, and I'm talking about Affin Pinschers to Russian Harlequin hounds to Caucasian Shepherds. Never had one have a problem with it. So
Really
that's my
interesting.
number one. But I don't use the chicken ever.
Gotcha.
I've never used a chicken formula. Um, so I stay away from that. Mostly beef, the buffalo, beef, salmon, sometimes duck. So those are the ones that I typically use. But Merrick is to me number one. Akana's pretty close. Origin only if it's a dog that can handle that high of a protein and richness. Um, Taste of the Wild used to be okay. I've struck them off their list.
Yeah, I got away from them too. I
Yeah,
used to use them quite a bit, and I
yeah,
got off them too.
yeah. The who was it? Diamond Foods that makes a bunch of
Yeah,
the different ones, and so those both of those just went off my list. So now it's just the top three.
gotcha,
So
gotcha.
America, Kana, and Origin, if you've got a dog whose stomach can handle that. Origin's probably the highest.
Elizabeth wants to know why not chicken. Tell her why not chicken. I'll let you answer
It's
that.
a pretty
Hey, Liz.
sad. It's a pretty sad source of protein, frankly.
Yeah.
The way the industry is and how they rend it and all that stuff. It's just I've having experimented with thousands of dogs and hundreds of different foods. I just stay away from it. I didn't like the
But
result.
you want to know something, Nelson? What people don't realize: beef is a lot better for you than chicken is as a human.
Yes,
Like
definitely.
there's no
But there are
comparison.
blood types, human blood types that are different. And have you ever heard of blood type
Yeah,
feelings? Yeah.
yeah.
And of
Mhm.
course, depends on your blood type because that's where those blood types were created in different parts of the world where those particular foods were available. That's why the blood types happened.
Yeah, and people, guys, if you want Nelson's thing on feeding, all you got to do is buy a CD and he'll send it to you. That's
There you
or
go. I'll
yeah,
send it for free for the price of a CD.
yeah. He's going to include it with the CD, and we're going to put the link in here when we're done.
Uh,
Okay. And guys, seriously, he's a beautiful guitar player. I don't mean he's not beautiful looking. I mean the way
no,
he plays.
no,
Yeah.
definitely not beautiful looking.
Yeah, no, it's the funny thing is when we talk about chicken for humans, I don't know. Stan Efferding is he used to be known as the strongest bodybuilder in the world,
Yeah,
right? Very
yeah.
scientific guy, very brilliant guy, and he came up with something called the vertical diet, right? For bodybuilders and training or someone, and it's based like I love something that he says. He said, people say you are what you eat, and he says it's not you are, it's what you can digest.
Ah,
And so his whole nutrition plan for bodybuilders and professional athletes is what's easily digestible for the human body.
yeah,
He doesn't use chicken in there. It's
yeah,
beef and buffalo.
yeah,
It's lean beef and buffalo, salmon,
yeah.
but and because if you look at the nutritional value, micronutrients too, beef is up here, chicken's down here.
Right.
And I could tell you, as someone that's been in a lot of chicken plants and beef plants and pork
Mhm.
plants, if you went in a chicken plant, you'd never eat chicken again.
Yeah,
You never eat it again.
yeah.
It's the most grotesque thing I've ever seen. So
It,
imagine what the dogs are getting.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know?
exactly. That's where, well, we were hunter gatherers for much longer than we've been agriculturalists.
Sure.
And so our enzymes matched with dogs previously with wolves, which is why we got together hunting and observed each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we banded together about 40,000 years ago. That's the real history of canines and humans. And it's actually a change in the genetics of the um, Asian wolf that created a sister line. There were numerous sister lines of wolves, just like there are today. And there were several of them that were more amenable to cooperating with humans. And when we bumped into them about 40,000 years ago in the steppes of Asia and Europe, below the ice sheets in the steppe area, uh, we both observed we were hunting the same things, which, mammoth mastodon, ancient cattle, those sorts of things. That's what we ate. We didn't run around after chickens.
Right, right. Exactly.
So,
Yeah. Now, an interesting thing, my wife used to train with former Miss Olympia,
Mm.
and she had done some research at one time, my wife's trainer, and she was already fit.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave up chicken to see what would happen. Just stopped eating chicken. This
Yeah.
was someone who didn't have a lot of weight to shed. She
Right.
dropped 15 pounds when she gave up chicken, you
Wow.
know,
Wow.
and most of it is because of all the hormones and everything that's used. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
it's absolutely disgusting. And
It really is. Yeah.
I'm at a point that,
When you look at chickens 40 years ago versus today,
yeah,
all you see is these pumped up things.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like you blew up a balloon and said, well, this is better.
I've got ruined. I have a great butcher here in town.
Mm.
And the problem is, once I started buying meat at the butcher, when you buy something from the grocery store now, I can't even eat it.
Yeah.
It's like night and day. It's disgusting.
Yeah. I miss, my wife, she grew up on cattle ranch and, ranched cattle with her father. And, our first probably 8-10 years of marriage, all we ate was beef because it was free to us. So
Yeah, yeah,
we ate, well, we'd get tired of eating steak and stuff like that and have to go out for something different.
yeah. That's funny.
People would look at us crazy.
All right, let me ask you this. Back to the food, because people are showing a ton of interest in it.
Of
You
course.
get a dog at your place that gets really bad diarrhea. What's
Yeah.
your go-to? What are you doing for that dog?
Well, actually, thinking back, the only time I had that was when I used different food than what I use now.
So if if you're keeping a client's dog, you feed them what you feed your dog?
Absolutely. 100%.
Really? So you don't keep them on
Right.
the food they
Right
were at
now.
home?
No, as a matter of fact, one of the things that I do my first consultation with those people with the clients was to teach them canine nutrition and
Wow. Cool.
the canine digestive system. I give them scientific papers that show actually how things are digested, et cetera, et cetera. And typically, what I always did was I had a phone call, usually about an hour long phone call with people calling me up, saying, "Hey, we need a trainer, we need this, we need that." Well, if you just need a trainer to teach, sit, stay down, place, here's a guy over here, or here's another person over here. Here's a good trainer over in this area. But if you need my help, then we're going to go through a number of things. And one of the first things I ask them is, obviously the medical side and the vet and all the stuff that they've done. Have they found anything? Are there cracked teeth below the gums? And do you have, problems with a joint or a hip or any chronic, pain? All those things. I
Right.
want to eliminate the medical side first. And then I talk to their vet before I ever start over to their place. And so I talk to their to the front desk people. I talk to the vet techs and I talk to the vet themselves so that I get three different perspectives from when
Nice.
people are with the dog, hand it off, the tech takes it back. Now the dog behaves differently. How does it behave out of reach of those humans? What changes are there? And then I get to talk to the vet about the medical aspects. And so I got a completely different perspective before I ever meet with the people and their dog.
Nice.
And so that first hour of conversation, I ask them about 5 minutes in, usually about nutrition. What do you feed your dog? I would say more than 90% of the time, I would tell them before I come over, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take that food and either give it to a shelter or throw it away. And this
Right.
is what you're going to do. And so they change their dog, and their dog's already feeling better because it's getting better nutrition by the time I come over. And so I'm setting myself up for better success.
And what exactly do you put the client dog on? What do you have them start with?
Same protocol, same exact protocol. I tell them start now,
Oh,
instantly. And
cold
really,
turkey?
yeah, absolutely.
No kidding.
Yeah, yeah. There's no need in mixing crap with good.
That's
There just isn't. Why do you want to continue the crap?
and that doesn't upset the dog's stomach.
So, the better quality foods, the ones that are done well, have a natural biology to them anyway. And so the bugs in the gut that there's good bugs and bad bugs. So the microbiome in your gut has a lot to do with how you feel, how you think, all of
Sure,
these.
100%.
Massive misunderstanding by most people. And,
Hey, I have a doctor. My own personal doctor here. Okay,
yeah.
He's a triathlete. He's big
Mm-hmm.
and he's an internal medicine. He's big
Yeah.
into health. He won't even see you unless you allow him to address your gut. He won't even talk to you.
Perfect. Good.
Not going to happen.
Well. So here's the thing. So there's actually 2 million. This is something that I go over in classes too. There's 2 million neurons in your gut. In other words, your gut has a brain. There's 20,000 neurons in your heart. So there are multiple brains, if you will, in your body, not just the one inside your head.
And that's why so often I shit my brains out. You just nailed it. You just solved everything for me.
There you go. You're welcome.
You just solved my problems, Nelson.
Yeah, we're still learning new things about the body. And so the reason you say, well, feel it in your gut. Well, your gut, and actually they've measured there are more signals from the gut to the brain to tell it versus the other way around.
Yeah.
So there are controlling elements. We know things like the rods and cones in the back of your the retina, the rods and cones that you actually see
Sure.
light with.
Yeah.
Those are actually brain cells extended from the brain to the back of the retina.
Right.
They're not separate cells. They're actually part of the brain. So the brain is an extension throughout the body. And so to have health within your microbiome, your gut, you need to get on what you naturally should have in the first place.
Sure.
And the body immediately feels that and adjusts as it needs to. So
do you ever fast? Do you ever fast any of your dogs?
So here's my dogs actually fast on their own. If they don't eat, they don't eat. They just go, no, not going to do it today. Okay, that's fine. Maybe for a few days, they're just kind of pick around. No big deal. I know they're healthy. There's no problems with them. And so I feed twice a day, dusk and dawn. And the reason is because I have my reasons. I teach this in class. It's about the natural behavior and hunting aspect of canines and the success rate that they have at dusk and dawn because of their vision and sense of smell and the difference between nocturnal and diurnal animals. I won't get into all of that because it takes.
No, I love it. I find, and I do the same too. I don't understand it the level you do, but I've always done the same thing too. And
well, you just need to come to the institute, buddy.
Oh, dude, I have to get back. We got to do the veteran thing again.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's
I'm sorry,
long.
I just kind of let you do your thing that time. I was having fun with individuals.
Well, you know what I tell people about that, Nelson, and this is important that people understand this, right? Because sometimes people will label you this kind of trainer and this kind of trainer.
Yeah.
And I used to hate that about myself. A lot of people used to think, that's the e-collar guy, and I hated that. You saw how much I use an e-collar. I don't use an e-collar very often, right?
Yeah. Right.
What stressed me out about that weekend, of course, when we're dealing with combat vets, there's always going to be people that struggle with, right? That's normal. That's a big part of it that we have to get these people together and work. But what stressed me about that weekend is, as far as the dogs go, when I normally do a seminar, we get all kinds of really bad dogs. There's stuff you could do. Yeah. We had a lot of couch potatoes, and I was stressing about that. But the thing that made the biggest difference, not just for the dogs, but for the soldiers, is when we all got out and just went, hiking on your property.
I know.
That's
I know.
where everything turned around.
Look,
And
so what I teach, Larry, is when it's like anything else as a social unit. We are social animals. That's what humans are. Dogs are social animals. Whether you call them, whether we call a name of a group of like species, a gaggle, a murder of crows, a herd, a pack, whatever it's called, this whole thing of dogs are not pack animals is the most ridiculous new age BS I've ever heard.
yeah,
Of course, they're pack animals. They're social animals, and that's what they do. Whether they pack up with a human and a cat and a bird, or other dogs, or whatever else, they're still social animals, and you need to understand prosociality. That's what I teach is prosociality. Working together as a unit. In other words, all of us working together, doing the same thing, going the same locations, doing difficult things together is the best way to create a group. And it happens instantly because the dogs see it, they recognize it. In 15 minutes, you can have dogs that were going like this, going, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?"
The best. Why is it so underutilized? Why? I don't understand it.
Because humans want to control everything. They want to get in there and they say, "I've got to do this and this, and I got to control this, and I've got to teach this." And BS. Go out there, walk, do something difficult, go up and down a hill together as a group. Watch how you gain confidence and trust in each other. It's no different than a football team working together. You trust that guy over there. It may not be your job to do that lineman job. I may be a wide receiver, but we trust each other to do our job, and we're doing it together for the same purpose, for the same goal. Special ops teams, same thing. That's what I was in, that sort of thing. So you learn all this together and you trust, and that's the whole point, is to get trust first. And the way I teach it is, and this is what I always see, is trust has to come from that dog to you first. That means you need to become trustworthy.
100%.
And the way I describe it is you have to become what you want that dog to be.
100%. Absolutely.
First, it's you first. And that's my whole method. You first. I've got to show the dog I'm trustworthy, not because I command it to do all this crap, but because I'm trustworthy in the way a dog understands communication and trust behavior. And so it trusts you first. And then after a while, it begins to trust all the situations that you put it in. Then over time, it begins to trust itself, period.
100%.
That's the order it always has gone in. And that's where rehabilitation of a dog takes time, whether it takes 8 seconds like some dogs or 8 months. Depends on the severity and the dog and the situation. So that's it.
Yeah, no, still, I used to get asked about my Rottweilers. Hey, how did you train those dogs? So they were very well behaved. They didn't do fancy things.
Yeah.
I said, well, with a leash and a flat collar. I didn't use food. I didn't use e-cod. Yeah. We'd get out and just walk every day. Me, my 2 dogs, we'd go everywhere, just travel, just move. Yeah. They were bulletproof around everything because they had seen everything, and they had seen me respond to nothing. If dogs ran out of the yard, we're in Kentucky, there's loose dogs. If dogs ran out of the yard coming at us, they look at the dogs and they look at me. What's his response?
Yeah.
And when my response is moving forward, the dogs move forward.
Yeah. That's what I'm always looking at, is I'm looking for that check-in out of the corner of my eye. The dog goes like that and goes, okay, he's got it. No problem.
Yeah.
They need to know 2 things. One, that you have recognized what it is they're concerned about. And that's what most humans don't do. They're oblivious because they're in their own mind. They're either thinking about the past or the future.
Yeah.
I got to do 100%. All these things, or I got a phone in my, whatever.
Yeah.
So they're totally, a dog is constantly scanning, sniffing, etc. And so they ignore their dog. So the dog checks in, goes, you're an idiot, I've got to take over. And so it can't trust the human to handle anything. which is why we have so many dogs that have problems out just walking around.
Yeah.
So it's about, the first thing is recognition. So the dog checks in with you. If it sees that you recognize what it's concerned about, and you go, "Don't worry, buddy, got this," and then the dog goes, "Okay." That little tiny bit right there is literally the difference between life and death with some dogs.
100%. 100%.
And if
Couldn't
people
agree
would
more.
just pay attention, I don't mean look at their dog, because then you just put the dog in charge. But be aware of your surroundings and what dogs are concerned about or curious or interested in. And if you're never interested in, and you're always trying to pull them away from something that's interesting to them, you have put the biggest wall between you and your own dog.
You got it. I agree, buddy. No doubt about it. Well, shit, I don't want to keep you much longer, Nelson. I could talk to you all night. I enjoy this. I think people are enjoying it. We didn't know we'd wind up on food and nutrition and brains, but all this
stuff. We'd talk about dogs at some point.
Well, all this stuff is so important, know, and it's so
it's the cumulative value of everything you do.
Sure.
With your dog, period. 100%. Cumulative value of everything. And you've got to look at it honestly and say, okay, how am I doing with this? How does my dog see me? How does my dog actually understand things? That's what I try to teach in my first course, which is the workshop, the 3-day workshop, which, by the way, I never thought I would offer online courses, but I am now.
Yeah.
And I'm blown away with how well that first one is doing.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with it. People are getting a lot out of it. It's not the same as in person, but we're actually diving down into deeper rabbit holes. So the 3-day course is online, is an 8-day, 3 hours a day, 24-hour course, basically. And we go into depth on a lot of things. That's the concepts. Some of the things that I've just mentioned, those are the basic concepts. And a lot of it is about understanding sociality, which includes antisocial, asocial, social, which is misunderstood, and prosocial behaviors. And then we go into the actual language that dogs use, the signals they use in each one of those, so that people then finally understand, oh, my dog's been doing this. Now I understand what's going on. So that's what I teach, is canine language, behavior, and motivations.
Yeah, and you're damn good at it. I love what you do. I'm totally on board with what you do and how you think. And
and vice versa.
I appreciate that, because
seriously,
it's, to me, it's the bread and butter of everything we do. That's what these dogs need.
Yeah.
And in today,
when you focus on that, it's so easy to train a dog then, literally, because they're wanting to be with you, learn, do things with you, period.
Yeah.
So you ask them to do something, they just do it.
I've had this explanation to people when I did something with a group of competitors and I did really well and never prepped for it. And the people couldn't understand, that couldn't get it done, that have prepped for a long time. And they said, why? Like, I don't understand. How are you able to do that with your dog? Because the dog understands, like, he's trying very hard to pay attention to what I'm asking him to do.
Yes.
He knows how to learn already, and the bond is there. He trusts me to get him through this.
Yes.
And when the dog is primed that way, you can teach him anything fast.
Yes.
And people are so quick to throw the e-collar. Listen, I work with so many people across the country like you do. When the e-collar comes out, I see the red dot going, pressing, buttons, nonstop. They say, what are you doing? Why? And now I call people out, and I don't do it to humiliate them, but I want to know why.
Educate them, yeah.
Why are you pressing that button right now?
Yeah.
Well, this is what they think they're supposed. Why? What do you think you're doing when your dog has felt that tens of thousands of times?
Communicating. What are you communicating with your dog? That's one of the things in this Zoom class, the online classes I've been teaching. We have the opportunity. That's one of the benefits is people submit their videos of the exercises that I tell them to do each time. And then we can go literally second by second and point by point, and I can say, okay, you had a quarter second when your dog checked in. Do you see when he went? You didn't recognize or acknowledge, and the dog immediately went, okay, I'm on my own. That's when you lost your dog. And they go, yeah, I see it now.
Right.
Yeah. And dogs, the check-in or that pause, I've seen them an eighth, a quarter, a half a second long, and then that's gone. So people's timing is so horrible. That's what I focus on with, especially when I teach the leash handling course. I teach a 2-day leash handling course that I try to teach people how to not use the leash. Because they're so focused on trying to control with a tool instead of what they're doing and communicating with their dog.
Sure.
And so eventually they just, in 2 days, they've got their dog just doing whatever, just walking beside them, loose leash, no issues. They're relaxed. The dog's relaxed. They get it in 2 days. And it's about how you communicate, and again, clarity in communication, and timing is everything. So anyway,
yeah, and
we can talk forever.
Unfortunately, the poor use of rewards and punishment and food and e-collars, it's creating a mess.
So what I ask is, what's a tool? Who's the tool for?
Right.
It's a human, because a human doesn't know how to communicate well. It's a force multiplier to multiply force or intent, because you've got poor communications to the dog. That's what a tool is for. Initially. Now, obviously, remote collars are excellent for remote use, for calling back, for doing different things, for teaching things, clickers, all these other things, the tools, very useful for those things. I've got my own clicker right here. That's it. I don't need another clicker.
Sure.
That's a warning order. I do that. All the dogs look at me.
Sure.
Okay, what's next? Okay, here's communication.
Right.
So.
Anyway. No, I got you, buddy. I get it. Tell people again where they could find all your stuff, Nelson. Tell them, and then let's put it in the comment section also when we get off here.
Well, yeah, man, I keep my stuff private. I don't want to know all that. No, I'm kidding.
You want the food log? You buy a CD. That's all you got to do.
There you go. I like your style. Well, obviously, the music side is Nelson Hodges Guitarist is the website, but I also have a Facebook site, Nelson Hodges Guitarist. But as far as the Institute, that's really all I am focusing on since the past 5 years. That's chrinstitute.com. That's the website. And on Facebook, it's Canine dash, the full word, not the letter and number, Canine dash Human Relationship Institute. And that's the name of it, and that's the purpose of it, is to understand canine human relation in every way, shape, or form, which includes very deep concepts. I basically created the Institute after working with dogs, humans, trainers for decades, teaching them, and finally, few people finally put it to me after I was doing workshops around, and they said, look, we want to know more. We want to know more in depth. And I finally went, okay, I get it. So I started offering advanced courses, and with the concept of it being really a graduate level university study in canines and humans. The brain, how we communicate with each other, the gaps, the differences, all that stuff. So that's really what it is kind of a graduate level university for professional trainers, as well as anybody else that wants to learn. I have probably 10%, maybe 15% of the people who've come through are not trainers. And, but it takes years of coming through courses and learning. I had the first batch of 6 trainers finally certified as relationship-based behavior modification, relationship-based trainers. So those 6 people are rare, unique, and it's taken them years to get through all that stuff, and they are
Good deal.
excellent.
That's awesome.
So I'm
That's
very proud
awesome.
of them. So,
well, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
And vice versa. Hey, enjoyed it.
This was a great conversation, and I love all your knowledge, man. I enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing you again, hopefully out at your place, because I really love it out there.
Well, if I run through Bowling Green sometime, that's where you're at, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bowling Green or Nashville. When people come through Nashville, I'll try to get down there and meet them. But hopefully we see you soon. And when we get off here, make sure you put your stuff in the comments section so people can check it out. Okay. All right, Nelson. Thank you, sir. You have a good night, buddy.
You too.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nick. I tried, buddy.
Yeah. Tried over and over again.